And tonight, we cut through the noise. As tensions boil over, reports confirm the US and Israel are targeting Iran's energy sites, while Tehran vows retaliation across the Strait of Hormuz and Kuwait. But looking closer, the official story of protecting allies hides a critical flaw. Military leaders warn forces are already stretched too thin to defend the region. The unspoken truth? This dangerous gamble is driven less by strategic need and more by political distractions, blinding decision makers to real human and economic costs. We're not here to repeat official lines. In this episode, we simply clarify what is actually happening: a rush towards conflict where diplomatic exits are ignored, and the missing piece of the puzzle is whether anyone is truly prepared for the chaos that follows. Let's examine the facts. And I'm Salma El-Fiki, and welcome to Think Tank.
Our world is becoming unhinged.
The United States is preparing coordinated military strikes against Iranian energy facilities, targeting oil refineries and power plants alongside Israel. However, the final operational order awaits presidential sign-off. Inside Washington, deep political divisions are stalling a coherent strategy. President Trump recently gathered his cabinet amid growing frustration over conflicting advice and the absence of a unified military roadmap. Meanwhile, domestic support is dropping rapidly. Recent polls show 2/3 of Americans oppose the campaign, while former defense leaders warn that the nation risks sinking into an unwinnable conflict. Maritime traffic through the strategic Strait of Hormuz is now suspended. Iranian officials state that safe navigation is impossible today due to the continued American military activity in the surrounding waters. Tensions flared at sea when Iran's Revolutionary Guards hit 2 oil tankers, and the vessels had ignored official directives and tried to cross under U.S. air escort, while 4 more ships were forced to turn around. Transit permits remain on hold until regional stability is restored. Meanwhile, Tehran cautioned that any further foreign interference or unauthorized naval orders in the waterway will face immediate consequences. And as headlines fade, the Middle East stands at a precarious brink. With diplomatic avenues closed and the Gulf's vital arteries cast in shadow, a fragile regional truce rapidly unravels. From shattered accords to escalating border maneuvers in southern Lebanon, the global order trembles. Join us now to dissect these critical shifts.
The Middle East is currently navigating a manufactured precipice. What is being framed as an inevitable march toward regional war is, in reality, a high-stakes recalibration of regional leverage. Diplomacy has not merely failed, it has been strategically sidelined to justify a posture of maximum pressure. Following recent IRGC maneuvers against escorted commercial vessels and retaliatory posturing near Kuwait, the U.S. administration is actively threatening targeted strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure. However, the unspoken variable here is economic survival. Tehran's warning to lock the Strait of Hormuz is not an empty threat, it is a mutually assured economic disruption. Any sustained blockade would trigger an immediate global oil shock, risking a severe international recession, a reality that heavily constrains actual military execution. Consequently, the once promising US-Iran Memorandum of Understanding has been allowed to collapse. Washington cites perceived misrepresentations, but analytically, this breakdown serves a purpose. It traps the region in a no-war, no-peace limbo. This is not a diplomatic failure, it is a feature of the current strategy, allowing for sustained economic and military pressure without crossing the threshold into a full-scale, politically catastrophic conflict. This Gulf-centric tensions creates exploitable vacuums elsewhere. The US-Israel-Lebanon trilateral framework agreement is currently undergoing a severe stress test. Recent Israeli military operations near strategic historic sites like Beaufort Castle are not random escalations. They are calculated probes, exploiting Washington's distraction in the Gulf to expand leverage on the ground, actively jeopardizing the framework's core implementation while testing Lebanese state authority. Ultimately, the current trajectory is defined by controlled instability. The rhetoric of war is loud, but the mechanics of power rely on the threat of escalation, not its execution. As domestic US political friction mounts over this trajectory, the region remains locked in a delicate, highly volatile equilibrium, where the next move will be dictated not only by military capability, but also by economic endurance.
And to provide more analysis, joining us from Washington, D.C. is Mr. Intifad Qambar, the doctoral candidate in statecraft and national security at the Institute of World Politics. And from Brussels is Mr. Youssef Abdelkader, the political analyst and journalist. Welcome to Think Tank. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here today. And I'm going to start with Mr. Intifad. Let me ask you, sir, with Pentagon leaders warning of stretched forces, is targeting Iran's energy grid a genuine military strategy or just a political theater?
Well, this is turning into more of war of attrition rather than a war of confrontation and decisive, short time decisive results. Targeting the infrastructure which contributes to the military purpose of Iran, I think is legitimate because everything in Iran, like in any authoritarian state, is a dual use. It's used for civilian purposes and also used for military purposes. In order to cut military communications, telecommunications, and command and control, sometimes you need to take out power plants and other infrastructure such as roads, bridges, electrical supplies, and so forth, or internet, fiber optics, and so forth, to siege the Iranians from attacking the Strait of Hormuz and provide a safe passage for the international maritime.
Mr. Youssef, with Iran suspending transit at the moment in the Strait of Hormuz, how prepared, if you can tell us, is the global economy for an immediate oil shock and recession?
Okay, actually, the global economy is better to prepare for a short disruption because it's then of prolonged closures strategic of petroleum reserve, its alternative suppliers and the limited pipeline bypasses can absorb part of initial shock, but they cannot fully replace the volume normally passing through Hormuz, because if we speak here about 1/5 of the global oil and gas ship passed through the Strait of Hormuz before the conflict. Now, recent restriction, we see attacks and vessel turned and have already reduced the traffic. Actually, Brent crude has moved around or above the $90, and this level it's very briefly exactly $100, demonstrating how it's quickly market can react to even partial disruption. And all this for sure is need the time to prepare all this big shock because particularly the energy importing and of economy is very important for the whole world for the moment, and all the eyes of the world is looking to Hormuz Strait with all the change of the prices.
Mr. Intifad, let me ask you, how does the White House reconcile its hardline rhetoric on Iran with cabinet frustration and the lack of unified roadmap?
I think the cabinet's frustration, we don't know. I don't think, I think some of the news you hear is probably coming from anti-Trump media outlets. And the other thing, some of it is probably an intentional misinformation on the Trump administration to give the Iranian different perspective. We saw that in the past, and it may very happen here now. I think the problem here, the general American public are against any war, not this war, and the war's nature, as the famous Clausewitz war philosopher said, is by its nature is foggy, is unpredictable. So there's no war goes 100% as planned. But I think Iran is the one who is suffering more. Unfortunately, they have leadership. They do not care about their own people. I have many people tell me of Iranian diaspora, their relatives, how the prices are like high and how people are suffering from lack of everything. But the leadership doesn't care about the people. And that is the problem. And that's the dilemma. In terms of the oil supply, by the way, the United States is the minimum, has been minimum, if had suffered minimum effect from the closure of Hormuz Strait because none of the oil that passes through Hormuz Strait goes to the United States. The United States maybe has problem with some shortage of fertilizers, and that could be solved. So, in fact, the most people are suffering from the closure of the Hormuz Strait are the Gulf countries, obviously, Iran, number one, and Europe and Asia.
Mr. Youssef, how can European capitals shield their industries from stagflation now that crude has broken $90 and shipping insurance rates have gone up 6 times?
Actually, Europe must act on 3 levels. So, if first is should coordinate the release of strategic reserves rather than allow individual governments to compete for supply. Second, it should temporarily support energy and intensive industry also, such as chemical, steel, fertilizer, transport, and glasses. But also assistance must be target rather to then becoming a permanent subsidy. So it must be working all together of Europe Federation, because if it's each country will look apart or separated to find the solution, it will be a big crisis in Europe. That's why it must be reduced through efficiency, full substitution, and coordinated procurement. That the worst response will be fragmented national action, and it's because that will create a competition inside the Europe market. That's why it must be all together to found one solution for all the Europe counted.
Mr. Intifad, could bombing Iranian oil refineries trigger retaliatory strikes that could leave exposed U.S. installations in Iraq and Jordan vulnerable?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, Iran already has bombed Kuwait and even bombed Kurdistan region in Iraq, which they don't have any animosity towards Iran. They bombed the Gulf countries. They even bombed Egypt a few days ago. And Egypt completely not part of this war. This is a.
But we still don't know who actually bombed Egypt. Egypt is still kind of, we don't know. It hasn't been clear out yet who's bombed it.
I mean, it's highly likely, from what I hear my sources in Washington, this was an attack by either Iran or one of Iran's proxies, such as the Houthis. Anyway, I'm just saying that there is no. This is a fanatic Nazi regime which basically attacks everybody, and they claim they are attacking American installation. That has proven not true. They attacked a civilian airport in Kuwait. They attacked hotels in Dubai. They attacked normal citizens in Kurdistan, Iraq. So this is a regime I think must go, and unfortunately As I said, they are banking on starving their own people while they continue their aggression against the region, against even countries who are not part of this conflict. And I think President Trump has left without any alternative or options other than continue the bombing and hoping to see this regime go away. I think the United States problem is relying only on military force, and with only military force, it's difficult to change a regime or change the behavior of the regime. We have completely lack of political warfare. We have completely lack of message to the Iranian people, which I consider our best ally against the regime. And I think that is complicating the problem, make it go longer.
Mr. Youssef, with Tehran explicitly warning Britain against granting U.S. bombers base access, is Europe being dragged from spectator to being an active target?
Fortunately, yes, Iran has explicitly warned that best use it to support attack against it could be treated as legitimate. So it's a legitimate target, and Britain has responsibility by saying that its armed forces are prepared to defend the country. So Iran already told the whole world if somebody is using the U.S. bases, it will be a target for her. So it's already said, and it's already working for it. So if we see how is Europe working as the last time, they are more. It does not mean that Europe has formally entered the war as a single bloc, but it's the distinction between the political support, logistical assistance, and direct military participation is becoming increasingly blurred. And it's really once Europe air force, intelligence system, or naval assist are used opportunity, Tehran may no longer regard the relevant European state as a neutral observer. Europe, therefore, faces a majority strategic question: is it supporting all the data rumors, and is gradually assuming the risk of collaborations without open debating of them? So it's most important that for the near future, it's to be more patient and more not coming to open the war in the all everywhere just to start the war, because it's easy to start a war, but just to stop it is not so easy.
Yeah. Mr. Intifad, if you can tell us, how does Washington plan to secure commercial shipping if the IRGC strikes continue to penetrate U.S. aerial escort corridors?
Well, it is not difficult to intimidate civilian ships with random attacks. Unfortunately, that's what terrorism is about. It's indiscriminate. It's collective punishment to the whole world. And I think that's why I think everybody, including the Arab countries, the Gulf countries, should form a coalition against Iran and stop this nonsense. Iranian sources, I read and I've been told here in Washington, Iran has been preparing for this closure of Hormuz Strait and holding the whole world as a hostage since 2011. It was a suggested idea by Ayatollah Khamenei. So this is nothing new. It was just we're waiting to happen any time. And I think Iran was planning to use this intimidation and the new source of piracy against the world once they are attacked. And I think the solution is not to give up to Iran. The solution is to go after the regime and continue this operation until we reach a result, either changing the behavior of the regime or changing the regime.
Mr. Youssef, given that tankers were struck despite the U.S. air cover, why do European shipping lines still rely on American escorts over direct diplomacy?
Because military escort it's offer an immediate, visible form of protection, while diplomacy is very slower and cannot guarantee a safe passage visit by vessel. So it's but recent attack also shows the limit of escort warships can intercept some missiles and drones. Yet they cannot eliminate mine swarm attacks, question missile of political risk. It's more for every transit. So tanker have been struck or threatened despite heightened American naval activity. And Hormuz traffic has repeatedly fallen close to a standstill. So if we see how the European companies therefore role on American escort because it's no credible in European security architecture currently exists in the Gulf. That's the main problem. That the escort should support diplomacy and not replace it. That's the negotiated transit mechanism involving Oman, Gulf states, Iran, and major important also we see economic would probably provide more sustainable protection than an infantry military corridor.
Mr. Intifad, given the Senate's narrow vote on war powers and 66% public opposition, what political capital is still left to sustain this war?
Well, there's a lot of political capital for President Trump. President Trump is the commander-in-chief. He would decide. He could decide to go for a war. I think the Senate vote is reasonable, given the severe partisan environment in Washington and the division in Washington. The vote for the war in favor of President Trump was on party line, as they say. So we don't expect any Democrat to vote for anything Trump will call for, not only in this war authorization. So it is normal. The public approval or disapproval, I think it may change very quickly if the United States make progress and or if the war ended. Any war process in the United States is faced at the beginning with some support, and the support will wane down. As I said, the American public, the European public, the Western public are not into wars anymore, and there's a very low expectation that there will be any casualties. Despite in the United States, very, very low number of casualties, the people here in the United States see a dollar increase on the gas pump is too much, which is ridiculous in my opinion, because this is a regime that's planning or to own a nuclear bomb. This is a apocalyptic regime, was willing to destroy the world and destroy Israel and destroy every Gulf country in the region. This war is, I think, is a very legitimate and necessary war.
Mr. Youssef, how does Washington's distraction in the Gulf embolden Israeli military moves near the Beaufort Castle? And what does this mean for the Lebanon framework?
If we see now the broader strategic risk is that America attention and the military resource are being absorbed by Iran and Hormuz, and it's giving Israel a greater operational freedom in Lebanon. They are just starting the war over there, and as we see in the Middle East, it's starting to be everywhere now. As we see, not only Lebanon, but also starting in Gaza and in the West Bank. So it's Israel, its operation is in the South Lebanon, including the destruction of Hezbollah infrastructure and the pressure around the strategically important high ground upper designed to reach the security environment before a political negotiation. So it's recent report. All the report indicate continued Israel action against Hezbollah position. It's alongside the preparation for further talk, but it's not going like this because, as we see, how is the situation for the security of the Middle East for the moment. It's as we see the war is starting everywhere. As we speak about this, for sure, the future for Lebanon and Israel, it will be very annoyed because we see how Israel is ready for to make a big war all everywhere in the strike, and that's what is the meaning of staying this war longer and giving the chance for Israel to start shooting everywhere around her and not stopping this war.
Yes. Mr. Intifad, how does the administration justify the energy strikes to voters when crude is breaking now $90, directly threatens the economic stability before midterms?
As I said, the oil that comes from the Gulf through the Hormuz Strait has nothing to do with the United States. In fact, the United States benefited in some way from this shortage of oil because a lot of Asian countries are buying American oil to replace the deficiency from the Gulf oil coming through the Strait of Hormuz. I think at some way or another, President Trump made this threat to attack energy structures and infrastructure in Iran over 50 times. And unfortunately, the Islamic Republic of Iran has not responded with a meaningful solution to this problem by handing out their nuclear material, by stopping support of terrorism, proxy groups in the region, by stopping their strategic missiles. I think everybody, including you, are going to be harmed by this regime if they continue to have a nuclear bomb in the future. So I think this is the price of war. War is not easy, and we don't expect it's going to go without any losses. And I think losses for the United States is at minimal as we speak now.
Mr. Youssef, Tehran's retaliation against escorted tankers and Kuwaiti targets suggests calibrated escalation. Do you think the West is underestimating Iran's threshold for maybe asymmetric warfare?
Yes, for the moment, I think it's the European Union capable also to blocking this. Yes, not a strategic autonomy because it can't contribute technical expertise, sanctions, relief, machinism, maritime. So all this kind of legitimacy. However, it cannot independently guarantee Gulf security. The principal American sanction or control Israel and American military decision. So I see Oman remain more credible as an undeniable intermediary because its maintenance working of relation with Iran, Washington, and the Gulf state. Oman has already been involved in a proposal concerning the managed passage through Hormuz Strait, and also Tehran has rejected element of this proposal. So I don't think Europe called support. Yes, for sure, Europe called support on a money need maritime arrangement, but it's exclusively Europe initiative, world strategy, unless Washington accepted it, and Iran believed that Europe called deliver meaningful economy initiative.
Mr. Intifad, when a former official warns of an unwinnable war, what operational metrics is Trump's administration using to define victory in that case?
Well, victory is when the regime changes behavior and hands its nuclear dust out, give up on their nuclear program, give up on their expansionist ideology and supporting proxies and terrorists all over the Middle East, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Shia militias proxy for Iran in Iraq to the Houthis, and also stop producing these ballistic missiles, which are designed to attack regional countries and Gulf countries. These are the three demands. If Iran complies with, we will win this war. And I think Iran will have to comply with this. Otherwise, they're going to lose everything, including their infrastructure. And they're already now 20 years behind or plus in their infrastructure from the losses. And they admitted recently they have lost 35% of their gas production capability. That's a huge amount for a country like Iran. So unless they change their behavior or the regime change happened by the people of Iran, I don't think we're going to see a serious win of this war.
Yeah. Mr. Youssef, is the European Union capable, do you think, of brokering an independent maritime ceasefire? Or has Washington's maximum pressure rendered European mediation irrelevant?
Actually, European capitals are not entirely silent, but their response has been conscious and they fragmented their face for concentrated. So the depend on American military power for maritime protection, their fair Iranian retaliation against their vessels and infrastructures. So they are divided over sanctions and military participation because it's a unified Gulf strategy. The result is a dangerous normalization of militarized passage. Tankers move under escort, state dispute control over transit. It's shipping access becomes part of wartime, and it's this weakness, the principle that the international strait should remain open the lawful navigation. Europe should be there to call not only for freedom of navigation, but also for monitored maritime de-escalation mechanism. All is based on international law, natural emergency communication channels, and guarantee against attack on commercial vessels. I think all this is most important, and I think also the central lesson is that Western military superiority does not automatically protect maritime control of political obedience. So it must be more diplomacy to get the right way to find a solution, and it's not only the war.
Thank you very much. And joining us was Mr. Intifat Kambar, the doctoral candidate in statecraft and national security at the Institute of World Politics, and Mr. Youssef Abdelkader, the political analyst and journalist. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your special insights and for this valuable discussion. Ultimately, this orchestrated crisis exposes a perilous illusion. Washington's brinkmanship colliding with Tehran's maritime defiance leaves global markets hostage to volatility. With diplomatic avenues dismantled and regional flashpoints ignited, we face not a localized dispute, but a catalyst for systematic collapse. The true casualty extends beyond vital assets. It's the fragile architecture of international stability. Accountability must precede the point of no return. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Think Tank. Thank you so much for watching, and do stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.